Hello, Victor, my man. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm good, Elijah. Thanks for hosting me today.
Beautiful, beautiful. And just like I mentioned earlier, thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate your presence. And you see, one other thing is, oftentimes I always thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, my man, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, Victor, you are on this platform right now because you did invested in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. Say some couple of months back, Victor, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, my man, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Victor, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes. Now I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely moment that day. I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Victor that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing. Your insight, your philosophies, the impact your work is having, how you are offering your solutions to the world. It's amazing. And just before I sent that request, my man, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Victor is doing. Not only me now, but even with the audience. And here we had a day with the amazing Victor. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thank you so much, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. And mangoes have a lot of medicinal value, so it's
Mm,
appropriate.
yeah, my man. So let's get started. You see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Victor, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew language means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Victor on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, my man, we live in a world where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, my man, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Victor, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Victor got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Victor, my man, over to you.
All right. So, how did I get here? That's a great question. Um, I grew up in Los Angeles. I was like quote unquote normal kid in Los Angeles in the sense of, you get sick, you go to the doctor, you hope you don't get sick. If you get sick, you go to the doctor, you hope they have something for you, and that's about the end of the story. So fortunately, I had very few health issues growing up. But when I was about 18, I started getting this like pain in my back. I had no idea why it was there, and it wouldn't go away. And I was, young guy, don't want back pain. So I started doing what I knew how to do. I went to go see doctors. And I went to like UCLA, which is a famous hospital, and they did all the imaging and physical therapy. And long story short, I got passed around to like 8 different doctors, and no one could diagnose it. Everything was ruled out, and so I was starting to get a little bit like, oh, this is a bummer. Like no one knows what to do. And eventually, one neurologist sat me down who had just ran some tests and said, "Look, man, we're not we're not going to fix this. Like you need to stop going to different doctors because you're just kind of wasting your time. You're not like an emergency critical situation.
Wow.
You don't really know what's going on. We got nothing for you." So that can sound like oh my, but I actually really appreciated that. He was very honest about it and was like, "Sorry, man, we can give you painkillers," but I was not open to that. So I was very grateful for that situation because it did what you were talking about. It kind of made me wonder. It's like, well, where's the knowledge? Like not that that system of health has no knowledge, but it didn't have the knowledge I needed at that time in my life to help myself. So I started exploring. I started, you know, as a I went to college. I was in college at that point, and I just started asking people. I was like, "What do I do?" And so one person said, "Try yoga." So I did. I just went to a yoga studio in my college town, and the yoga teacher there luckily, was a very good yoga teacher, and we worked privately a little bit, and she gave me a few things to do, and within like 2 weeks, it was just gone. The pain never came back.
Wow.
So that was wonderful, and for some people, it's that easy. I was fortunate, but that's obviously not how it works for a lot of disease. But what it did for me was it opened my eyes to a realm of knowledge I had never known, and that was the whole Eastern medical philosophy, basically, right? And I got intensely curious about it, and so I kept studying yoga, and then I came to Ayurveda, which is the holistic system of health that originated in ancient India, and I really got into it. I went to school for that, opened up a clinic, and here I am now.
Amazing. I tell you, your journey is so, so inspiring. And one thing that stood out is your curiosity, the fact that you kept exploring and not giving up according to what those folks already said. There are some folks right now who wouldn't want to do anything to get out of their terrible situation because what the professionals already said. The professionals have said this, and I think that's the end for me. So, folks like that, getting to listen to your story now. If Victor could do it, then that means I definitely can. Okay, so let us talk about Ayurveda. What is Ayurveda? I want you to give us more deep insight as to what it is.
Ayurveda is a holistic system of health and what I mean by holistic is that it's going to take the whole system into account, even for a specific issue. So, I got a rash on my arm. We don't just look at that rash on the arm. You got to look at everything going on in the body because you need to understand where the cause downstream or upstream of that rash is. And it's like detective work. So it could be a digestive issue, it could be a hormonal issue, it could be a blah, blah, blah. But the point is, all those things are intricately connected. They don't operate in a vacuum, right? Our liver isn't floating in space, dissociated with the rest of our body. It's functioning as a whole to create our experience of life. So Ayurveda is holistic in that sense, meaning the cause of any given malady can be rooted anywhere in the system. And we got to deal with the cause if we want to genuinely heal, as opposed to just manage a symptom for a little bit.
Mm,
So,
mm.
so yeah, Ayurveda is from ancient India, not modern India, ancient India, and it shares roots with Chinese medicine and all those traditional systems, whether they're from Africa, the Middle East, India, any Native American, even pretty much all of those medicinal systems share almost identical philosophies about how to approach the body.
Wow. Okay, so what then is the difference between Ayurvedic medicine and Western medicine?
I'd say there are two major differences. The first is Western medicine, as it's practiced today, tends to want to isolate the problem and deal only with that little piece. So if I'm presenting with a rash, we'll just run with the rash. Then what is the chemical I can modify that will make the rash go away and just ignore everything else? That would be an ideal outcome in Western medicine because that will produce symptomatic relief, right? No more itching, no more redness, and it will happen fast typically, right? So I put the steroid cream on, rash goes away in 2 days. That's the Western approach. The better you can do that, the better you are at medicine. Ayurvedic approach is very different from that. It says, okay, you got a rash, but then we need to ask why do you have that rash? And not on a chemical level, but on a systemic functional level. So that brings you down a rabbit hole. And then let's say, okay, you have a digestive imbalance that's leading to toxicity in the blood that then leads to an immune system reaction on the arm, which leads to the rash. Then you got to ask, why do I have a digestive issue? Right? And it's like, oh, because you're overeating or whatnot. And then you got to ask, why are you overeating? And that's going to bring you into the mental sphere. And there might be trauma, there might be sadness, there might be stress, whatever the reason is, very personal to each individual. And then Ayurveda is going to say, well, why do you have that mental angst or strife or imbalance? And that's going to lead you straight to the spiritual realm. So existential challenges, your conception of what life is, your worldviews, all that stuff. Every layer of that Ayurveda is going to attempt to address over time, not all at once, right? To really root out why someone is sick or facing this malady in their body.
Wow.
Whereas allopathy is not going to do that, right? It's going to say, did the rash go away? Great. See you some other time.
I got that. And in some other time, the rash could appear again. You see, oh boy. You see, I prefer the Ayurvedic stuff. I prefer it totally because it addresses the root cause. But one thing that amazes me is the fact that could all of this emotional stuff, like these experiences, trauma, lead to sickness in the body? Like, for instance, you use rash as an example. Now, while you were just giving the example, could stuff like that actually cause one to have such sickness, like fall sick? Do you get it?
100%.
Wow,
Yeah, 100%.
I
So
never knew that.
Ayurveda, yeah, Ayurveda has a principle that all diseases in their origin. Now, not necessarily when you don't want to think about it as a perfect correlate, right? So, like, if I'm having trouble, imagining my future, then I'll get eye problems. We don't want to do that, right? That's not how it works. But in their origin, all diseases have a psychosomatic root, meaning the mind is at play somehow, somewhere in the generation of any disease, physical disease. So, and that is 100% true. I'll stand by that till the end of the earth. And you see it. Just, just think about stress. The moment you get stressed,
Yeah,
physiology changes immediately, within a second,
that's a great
and that,
point.
yeah, that causes a ripple effect and a cascade of things that go on in the body. And depending on the context and everything else going on in your life, it's going to manifest in certain ways.
Yeah, because when you're stressed, you can be forced to do some certain things that will actually be detriment to your health. I got that. Wow, this is very educating, my man. Victor, Victor, Victor. I love that. Okay, so we've got two more questions to go, all right? So, what are the three biggest health issues you find most common?
The most common ones in the States nowadays, in my opinion, the biggest threat right now is obesity, which also runs hand in hand with blood sugar imbalance. So, obesity is a word I can get in trouble for using these days, but it needs to be said. Right now, as we speak, about 80% of the United States is overweight, and 40% is obese. So that's staggering in and of itself. And about 50% are having insulin resistance or blood sugar issues, which means what we all know, type 2 diabetes is coming, right?
Right.
So, and that's a very dangerous disease. It ruins your life. It brings everything down to a level of kind of like malaise or melancholy in your life. So it's a big deal, even mentally, and how much you enjoy your life. Um, so that's one that's huge. And then another thing I like to get people to kind of try and take in is that there's this kind of assumption. I call it the New Year's resolution assumption, where it's like, oh, I'm out of shape. I need to do something about my diet. I need to do all that stuff. New Year's resolution, I'm going to the gym, right? We've all done that. And how long does that last? A week, 2 weeks, maybe a month if you're lucky. If you're right back in. All right. So the statistic I like to people to kind of chew on is that once someone becomes obese, there is less than a 1% chance that they will return to a normal weight ever in their life. So now that's kind of framed as like odds or chances, but it's not really chances. It's that people don't do what they need to do for a lot of good reasons because it's really hard
Mm,
to get
mm,
back, right? And if you're talking about Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever, I'm not saying that those are inherently bad, but it's like what we said. They're not dealing with causes. They're just dealing with symptoms, and they have nasty side effects. Ayurveda is going to say, no, 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 no. We need a whole different psychosomatic approach to dealing with this health crisis. So that's the most common, and the second most common is every other digestive disorder in the book.
mm.
Poor, poor, poor eating habits and lifestyle habits create that.
Binge eating. I got that. This is so serious, my man, I tell you. Okay, so what is that one single most important thing people can do right now for their health?
So that's going to largely depend on the individual because Ayurveda is very customized, right? It's not There's no such thing as a universal health hack. If you go see one of those on YouTube, just turn it off because it depends on you. It depends on your situation and what you need at that moment. But of course, there are general rules of thumb. One thing I encourage most people to do is to stop the late night eating. It's just brutal because you're not going to digest that food well, going to increase toxicity levels in your body immediately. And more importantly, it's going to screw up your sleep. And if you're not sleeping, you're not regenerating tissue properly. And that's when a lot of disease can set in because the first thing that happens is the baseline tissues start getting degenerated. And that leaves them very susceptible for disease pathologies to set in. So late night eating, man, if I could change the world with the snap of my finger, I'd probably pick that one.
Oh boy, nah, nah, nah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. I definitely have to work on that myself. Awesome, man. Okay, lastly, let's talk about water. Okay, how much water should one drink each day?
Question. Depends on their physical activity level. So, despite kind of popular belief, too much water is bad. You can drink too much water and it will suppress your digestive functions, dilutes your stomach acid mainly, right? So you don't want to drink too much water. But obviously, if you don't drink enough, that obviously has problems. So for someone who has moderate activity level, meaning they're doing exercise pretty much daily for about a half an hour and they're walking and they're active, they need about eight glasses of water roughly. It depends on their height and weight too. But let's just use very general numbers. And and they it also depends on what kind of foods they eat, right? Because if you eat really dense, heavy foods, that requires more water for your body to process. Whereas if you eat mostly plants, that's contributing water to your body, hydration. So depending on the diet and the exercise level or physical activity level, it could be anywhere from 4 glasses of water a day to 12. It depends on the person. There's a wide range.
Got it, got it. Thank you for sharing that. So to bring this to an end, my man, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about all we've discussed so far, or open your services or product, how can that be possible?
All right. So what I like to leave my people with is there was a study done that interviewed a bunch of Americans over the age of 70, so past retirement age for the most part, and they asked them what their number one regret in life was at that age. And by far and away, the biggest regret was I wish I had taken better care of my health when I was younger. That was number one, top of the list. Something to think about. And then if people want to take care of their health and they want to talk to me, I'm really easy to get a hold of. Just email me, Victor at iiayurveda.com. And I'd appreciate it, Elijah, if you put that in your show notes because Ayurveda
Most
can be hard.
definitely. Most definitely, my man. So thank you. That's going to be the end of the show, Victor. Thank you for coming and thank you for opening our eyes to this wonderful stuff. It means a whole lot, my man. Thank you.
Thanks for the invite. Hope we talk again soon.